All right, everybody. Good morning. This is John Sewin, President and Chief Librarian and one of the co-founders here at Third Iron. Thanks so much for taking the time to come by and learn about LibKey 2020, accelerating the path to content for medical libraries. If you just joined, I did mute the lines for call clarity, so please just add your questions that you have to the group chat box, and I'll be monitoring that as we go along here, and happy to answer questions at the end as well. If you're brand new to Third Iron, welcome. This will give you a little overview of our LibKey services, but it is not all the services that we have here at Third Iron. So certainly if you like what you see here, I encourage you to visit our website and use the Contact Us button at the top of the page to get in touch with one of our team to have a more thorough demonstration of all of our services. For those of you who've been subscribing to our services, thank you very much. I appreciate you and welcome back to learn about the update that is coming free to the things you already subscribe to. So for most folks on the call, there's nothing new to subscribe to here, but there are new things to implement, new things that you can use to take advantage of resources that you already pay for to get better access and faster access to content for your users. So without further ado, a little bit of introduction about Third Iron. We're now used by nearly 1,000 institutions across 32 countries. We work with all different types of libraries, from universities to hospitals, which is our #2 market. So medical is incredibly important to us, as well as corporations and government facilities. And that includes a lot of medically oriented government facilities as well, like the CDC and the NIH and so on. The history of Third Iron is that our first product was called Browsine, and Browsine is still, of course, in active use at hundreds of places around the world. And Browsine was designed to be the world's best journal engagement system. And the concept back in 2012 was that many libraries were moving from print to electronic holdings, and they were trying to figure out how to better display the holdings that they had at their library so that their users could interact with that material, when a lot of it was being desubscribed in the print format. So it was just less visible, and it was harder to kind of have that serendipitous discovery experience, that easy current awareness that you got from coming into a print reading room and so on. And so we tried to virtualize that experience in the digital domain. And one of the important design elements of that was this kind of adherence to the idea that it should be as simple to use as print. Print, of course, follows this very easy to use system that you don't have to have big training webinars about to say, oh, well, here's a journal. You open it and you can look at the table of contents and find an article and then turn to page 19 and view that article. Incredibly simple, doesn't need a lot of instruction to learn how to use that. But in the digital domain, that doesn't exist, especially that last mile component, right from the table of contents to the actual PDF itself. As we know, most of our services and libraries, in order to make that leap, we have to rely on link resolvers. So if we're coming from any of the tools we use, whether that's PubMed or Web of Science and academic search and so on, there's usually a link resolver step in that process. And we actually tried to do that with Browsine when we first designed it. My background is in systems librarianship and electronic resources, so that was a very natural thing to try because, of course, libraries subscribe to a number of different sources. Sometimes those sources overlap. There's open access possibilities to contend with as well. But especially when we tried doing this in a mobile format, especially 8 years ago, this was a real train wreck of a user experience because things were not very mobile optimized. It was very confusing to kind of navigate this. Sometimes it just didn't work. And so this whole concept has not been one that's been terribly well received, of course, by end users, but it's something we have. It's what we have to connect things to full text. But it really doesn't meet end user expectations. And that is the big kind of driver for us to figure out, can we make this more feel like that simplicity of print? Now, while we were working on that, there was other things going on in the information industry at the same time. There were things like Academia EDU and ResearchGate that were just getting started, Sci-Hub, just outright piracy of materials. And a lot of these services were looking to try to make resources available to people who didn't have access to those resources. But in another way, it was actually making it easier for users who do have access to that material to just get to it simpler, even though the way that they were doing it was, of course, completely illegitimate. But what that kind of did was kind of paralleled the kind of music experience of the 1990s, where you had things like Napster and LimeWire and so forth, making digital music shareable, so that people can get access to it in a digital way, which is what people wanted to be able to do, and very simple, because the music industry was not making it available in that type of format until we got things like Apple's iTunes and Amazon Music and so on. So there's an interesting parallel in that. As you can see that Alex Holcomb here, just a researcher on Twitter, noting that getting access to a journal article through his university library takes 55 seconds minimum to navigate all the menus and the link resolvers and what systems to use to find it. But at Sci-Hub, it takes them just 5 seconds. So there's a definite user experience expectation that was then set by these services that by and large, library services were not meeting. Because of those services, now when they use library systems that we manage, whether it's a discovery system or even just in PubMed or in our databases, they're expecting that if I see a citation and it says full text available or get it now or any of the terms we use, that it just appears. That it's available, great, show it to me. And that's informed by that Sci-Hub experience. But of course, the reality is no, you have to click here, and then we're going to tell you about a bunch of sources and show you this like system that's going to load after a couple of seconds. And then depending on what you chose, you have to go to the publisher page, which you may or may not be familiar with because there's hundreds of them out there. There's going to be a bunch of advertisements and stuff that you have to look at. And then somewhere in there, you have to find the PDF link, and then you get to the content. And that's an experience that is repeated hundreds, if not thousands of times every single day for every single article that we present for users. So it's no wonder that once they find out, well, I can go to Sci-Hub and just pop something in and it just appears, that's incredibly attractive. So our goal at Third Iron was to redefine that user experience to meet user expectations. So we can provide what we call consistent signposts and resolving, regardless of the starting place, to try and connect users to libraries supported content very quickly and very easily using your entitlements and your authentication that you already have. We call that service LibKey. So LibKey was the extracted technology that we use and still use in browsing to complete that last mile to get users from a citation to the full text document instantly. But we actually realized that has a lot of utility in other services. And there's a lot of other interactions between users and content besides browsing where this could really help that experience. And so we decided to call that service LibKey and externalize it from browsing. The way LibKey works is we have article metadata, tens of millions of articles known on our end. We have library entitlements data, so we work with libraries to get that on a routine automated basis from whatever link resolver or knowledge-based system you're using. And then we also work with whatever authentication mechanisms you have, whether that's proxy servers or SAML like OpenAthens or VPN systems and so on. And then using an identifier, we can very quickly calculate, does the user at your institution have access to this article, and how and where do they get it? And we do that in about 1/10 of a second, so it's completely organic with whatever experience that they're using. The Third Iron Complete system is essentially encompassing all of the different services we provide at Third Iron. And that includes the LibKey suite, which is the focus of the presentation today, as well as browsing. Now, the LibKey elements here that we're going to touch on is LibKey Discovery, which is showing how this interacts with discovery tools like Primo and EDS and Summon and so on. We're also going to focus on LibKey Link 2.0. We have a brand new expansion of the LibKey Link service. Many of you may already be using that in PubMed, and we'll talk about how that's expanding next month. So a lot of exciting news about that. We'll also talk about LibKey Nomad. This is a browser extension we've developed. We have some new updates about that and some great feedback from our libraries, in particular medical libraries, about the success with that resource. And then I'll also highlight LibKey IO, which is coming out at the same time as LibKey Link here in June. We'll talk about what that does. So LibKey Discovery, this is the oldest of the LibKey services. It has been used now for nearly 2 years. Allows folks using any major discovery system at this point, from Primo, Summon, EDS, OCLC, TDNet, Discover, and Explored Everywhere, to be able to have lots of rich enhancement to that search experience. So not only do we have, of course, cover images that appear in line with the result set, making it just more visually interesting, as well as acting as a nice graphical marker for researchers who know what their journals look like so that they can see familiar titles pop out at them. But we also have the article in context technology. And what that does is it allows you to link back into Browsing, highlight that article in its originally published context to introduce a layer of serendipity back into the search experience. That's one of the things that when we used to have to go to electronic indexes and then always go to print to get the full text, there was a natural serendipity in that process, in that when you had to pull the back volume off the shelf and you'd go to the table of contents to find the right article, you'd naturally encounter the rest of the TOC, and you'd wind up seeing other articles that have that access and are able to get to that material. So that's one thing that's been missing from the electronic universe, but it is something that we've added back now with the LibKey Discovery product. We also have LibKey's one-click access to PDF. The access there allows you to very instantly get from the PDF or from the citation right to the document. We do this both at the PDF level as well as something we call article linking, which goes to the article level link on that platform. That may be the case depending on the source at which you hold that item. But either one of those then negates the need for the user to encounter a bunch of different overlapping sources and so on, and has a high quality degree of linking from one source to the document itself. This is an incredibly popular resource. Just in March 2020, this provided over 2.8 million PDF downloads globally. So a very, very popular resource across our libraries. As this Twitter user kind of points out here, there's no greater joy than seeing LibKey Instant PDF next to a piece of reading I have to do, which makes total sense because they know that this is going to be an instant process and they're going to get there very, very quickly. We've done some case studies of this, one in February of 2020 from University of Manchester, who reported that there were several key findings here. One, that LibKey led to 75% fewer clicks for most articles, which of course makes sense because we're removing the need to have to choose those sources and navigate publisher pages and get right to the content. Additionally, we find that they kind of added up all of the downloads that they had. Manchester is a fairly large institution. And then they did a calculation to figure out, well, it's about this much less time to go from things using LibKey versus using our traditional workflow. So cumulatively, we've saved over 100 days of researcher time, which is a massive amount of time that's basically spent on clicking or getting confused by things. Additionally, we have reduced support ticket volume that they reported of 25%. So a huge amount of time just is normally spent answering tickets from customers and users saying, how do I use these things? How do I navigate this? What does this mean? That's mostly gone away because of this simplistic workflow. So how much time will your folks save? Well, hours of total time saved per day can be calculated pretty easily by looking at your link resolver stats. How often are people going through your discovery tool and so on, and thinking, well, if we have that many downloads today, well, we're probably going to save about 20 seconds per article if we have LibKey in place there. So that can add up very, very quickly to lots and lots of hours of time saved. Now, if discovery is not something that you have available, or even if it is, you'll also find that LibKey Link 2.0 is another way to help your users save time and have a one-click experience. The reason why we built LibKey Link and how it's different than Discovery is that in Discovery, we're actually enabling the technology right inside the Discovery environment. So we're adding links in real time to that Discovery system. But they're not all systems can do that. They're just not capable of supporting that kind of advanced technology. But many other systems use link resolvers. And so you can put your link resolver link in that system, notably PubMed and its outside tool. So what we did was we developed a LibKey variation that is designed to be in those types of systems. Now, LibKey Link 1.0, which came out last year, was designed strictly for PubMed. It worked by analyzing PMIDs and aligning things up. Those of you who have it in use know that what it does is it looks to see, do you have a PDF of this available? If you do, it goes right to the PDF, doesn't stop and ask any other questions. However, if you don't have a PDF for this, it will go right back to your link resolver. So the idea here is that we're not trying to slow things down ever. The worst case scenario, quote unquote, worst case scenario is the current scenario. And we're just improving upon that whenever we can. With LibKey Link 2.0, though, we expand this where we're looking at other sources where you use your link resolver. So this could be Google Scholar, Web of Science, Scopus, EBSCO databases, ProQuest databases, lots of other places that you might be using a link resolver to connect users from a citation to the document itself. Now, this is how it works. So right now, if you're in PubMed, you've got your link resolver there. In the outside tool, it might go to your link resolver menu screen. And from there, the user chooses going into a publisher page, and then it goes into Elsevier. So when doing all these different steps, that's kind of the normal workflow that we see hundreds, if not thousands of times a day. LibKey Link jumps in the middle of this process. And what happens is that as the user clicks a citation, it first gets resolved by LibKey. And in LibKey Link 2.0, we're introducing a concept we're calling the format chooser. The format chooser allows the user to have a lot of control around what type of content format they're going to see. And that is kind of in stark contrast to, hey, user, figure out what database you want, and then navigate these publisher pages. And instead saying, we've checked our sources. We have a one-click to PDF. Do you want that? Oh, you don't want the PDF. Do you want the web link instead, where you go to the publisher page? Which they may want, of course, because they may be looking at citations, or they may be looking at a data set or a video, something that's not the actual article itself. So we're giving that choice to the individual user to make that decision. But you may have users who are really focused on the PDF. And if that's the case, they can check this little box that says automatically remember my choice for 24 hours, which means that on the second go here, if we have a PDF available, they won't see this at all because we know what their format preference is and just go right to the PDF right away. We have other options here. You have view article in context. And with the view article in context, that brings you into that browsing ecosystem where you can see the article in its originally published context, just like in the discovery systems. So again, a total parallel to what happens in discovery. And then finally, at the bottom there, it says trouble, see all content access options for this article. In that way, we're always providing an escape hatch back to the link resolver. That's, of course, very useful if you're an e-resources person like me and need to troubleshoot something, looking at all the sources and so on. Or if for some reason one of these links does not work, although we know them to be highly reliable because we've been using the system for about 6 years, that is always there for you. So just know that that never goes away. So this is a very simplistic way then of informing users about the format choices available and how they can get right to it. Let's take a little bit of a look at some use cases here. So here's Google Scholar upon first use. So if you have this installed at your Google Scholar, this sample library actually has Primo as their normal link resolver system here, Primo Alma. So normally this would be the process, right? They click on that full text at Purdue, they go to Primo Services, they see their options, they click on one of those options, there's an authentication stage, they get to the publisher page, they look at the publisher page, they find the PDF, and there we are. Now, if they have LibKey link installed instead, then when they click, it goes right to the format chooser, and we do the calculation and say, yes, we have a PDF available for this, or we can give you the article link, or you could go to see this article in context, your choice. The user has chosen PDF here, and they've checked the box that says, I prefer PDF. Remember my preference there for 24 hours. So they authenticate, they get right to the document. Already you can see saving them a bunch of complexity and so on to get to the material. But let's say they're back in Google Scholar, they're doing a lit review, they're looking at a bunch of different articles. So if they clicked on a second article, if they were still using the Primo workflow, same deal, right? It's exactly the same sort of thing. The only thing that's saved is you notice that their proxy maybe is already active or their Open Athens session. So there's not an authentication stage, but otherwise it's the same number of clicks to get from Google Scholar to the document itself. But remember, they remembered to do PDF in LibKey Link. So when they click on that next article, if we calculate that there's a PDF available for that user, we just show it. There's no extra steps. It feels just like Sci-Hub. In fact, it's better than Sci-Hub because, of course, in Sci-Hub, you have to find the article, then go, oh, I need to get the DOI, copy, paste, look up Sci-Hub, paste it in. It's even faster. So a really, really good user experience that surpasses the expectations of even the illicit sites. So here's Web of Science, another example. Maybe you use this resource. I go to my link resolver, authentication, and publisher page. Maybe that's what I'm after. I'm after some data sets that we know are linked to this article. So I'm actually looking for the publisher page, not the PDF in this case. Same thing can be done inside of LibKey Link. I get down to our format chooser, I choose article link instead. I get to the publisher page, all is well. You can still see I'm saving time and clicks for the user. Here we are in PubMed. I saw some questions about if does this work in the new PubMed? Absolutely. It works perfectly fine in new PubMed, just like it did in old PubMed using the outside tool. Once they click in here, they go to the link resolver. As we know with outside tool, it does appear on every single article, whether the library has access to it or not. And so the user doesn't know, of course, what's going to happen until they click on that link. In this case, there's actually no access. So you're going to get here, and maybe you have some ILL options from your link resolver that you could use. Now, one thing that happens here with LibKey Link is we check the sources, and we also maybe come up with, yeah, it's not in your holdings data. So, there's no access to that. But we also check unpaywall simultaneously. And in this particular case, there was actually a manuscript version available from unpaywall. And that is what then is displayed to the user. We also label that and kind of give a little warning, if you will, to say this is a manuscript. It was accepted for publication, but is not the final version. Try to explain what this manuscript business means to users who may not encounter that sort of kind of library jargon normally. But they can click through that and use the unpaywall mechanism, another way that we're trying to have a better fulfillment experience for users. One final example here. Let's say I'm in Scopus. I've got my normal process here, and in this case, it's the same sort of situation as PubMed. You don't actually have access to something, but that that get it button that you have installed is on every single article. So that goes to my link resolver. Link resolver says there's no options, but maybe you have a document delivery system attached to that. That's great. So with LibKey Link, if you had link installed instead, when we do our calculations, we look in our holdings data, we also confirm you don't have access to this. We check on paywall, as you just saw in example 3, they don't have anything either. So there's really nothing we can do. At that point, we will forward back to the link resolver services menu and not show any LibKey display, no format chooser, because we can't help. And we do that calculation in a fraction of a second. So there's no real bump in user experience at all. And we're not trying to confuse them by adding extra clicks and extra links with LibKey Link involved. We just get them back to the route that we know is the way to get to document delivery. So very much, again, the theme here is this only should improve things, not slow things down or anything like that, and overall produce a better user experience. So lots of variations in LibKey Link because, of course, there may be a PDF and article choice available for the user. Maybe it's only article link depending on the sourcing. Maybe there's no options directly through your holdings, but there's unpaywall options. So all of those could be different sort of variations that the user can see with LibKey Link. A couple of other key features. The National Library of Medicine reported to me when I asked them about this, about their percentage of users who use PubMed from a mobile device. And they said 45%. So a huge amount of use is coming from that 45%, of course, on mobile devices. And which is really shocking because only with the new interface can you actually even connect your outside tool to PubMed at all on a mobile device. So now that that is possible, let's try and make it as simple as possible to navigate to full text. So when that's done here, you can see this formats really beautifully down to a mobile screen where they're not seeing a bunch of different tiny links and stuff to navigate. It's just real simple what kind of formats they want to work on their device. Other unique benefits of things that we focused on with LibKey Link, if you're serving a user population where English is their second language, it's always much easier to not have to navigate a bunch of other English language interfaces like link resolvers or publisher pages, and to kind of save that mental overhead for when you're actually reading English content. You get right to the content itself. If you serve a population that is using assistive technologies like screen readers, having less clicks is always a good thing. And even when there has to be some clicks, like a format chooser, having a minimal number of buttons or other things going on so that when the user is navigating via keyboard, it's not 17 clicks to get to the document. It's just a couple to get right to where you need to be. Now, keep in mind, like, as it's very easy for us to forget as librarians that, hey, well, I'm familiar with the old process. I know how this works. It's not that big of a deal, a couple of clicks. But that's not our typical clinicians and researchers. This is foreign, kind of territory for them, and their user expectations have now been set by ResearchGate and by academia and Sci-Hub and so on. And it's a process that happens hundreds, if not thousands of times a day. So getting started with this, attendees of this webinar series will be first to sign up, meaning that we will be sending a note out to you when this is available in the next couple of weeks. We're gonna have a little bit of a form for you to fill out that collects some additional data and information to make sure that we can connect all the dots for you and your users. So that's the big update with LibKey Link 2.0. Very excited about that. The other service that I want to highlight is LibKey Nomad and some advancements in that. One thing right off the bat is that we made it much easier for you to advertise LibKey Nomad by creating a forwarding domain. So certainly I've seen several libraries create fairly complex, how to get started with Nomad. And instead I would simplify that down to go to libkeynomad.com to get started and install the extension. And that should be all the instruction that's really needed to get going with this. We've seen lots of great feedback. You can see Matt Hoy from Mayo Clinic, who offered one of the most early reviews of this, but lots of other medical libraries have been writing to us telling us how useful this is for their users. It's very easy to set up. It's available for Chrome in the Chrome store, the world's most popular web browser, but it's coming soon also for Microsoft Edge and Firefox as well. So we're continuing to invest in the LibKey Nomad system and expanding the scope of the service. Also, enterprise deployment via group policy is now available. So we have detailed instructions for your IT department if you want to automatically install this on all the machines that are managed by your IT group. That way, users don't even have to install it. It's just there and working for them. So when they go right to PubMed or they go right to a publisher site, they will get the activation that LibKey Nomad has. So what we're doing is we're connecting users on the open web to resources that you subscribe to or a path to fulfillment for those resources. So in this case, I'm at Springer's page. I arrive here, there's a paywall, but you can see at the bottom of my screen, it says download PDF, Nomad Demo Library. And that's branded, of course, with your institutional name at the bottom there. And what we're doing then is we're signposting the availability of that item to your clinician. So right away they see, oh, I guess I have access to this. And if I click this, we produce the seamless path right to the content. And so it meets users' expectations wonderfully, as opposed to working out how to sign in advance, only to find out that, yeah, you can sign into the Springer page because maybe you have Open Athens, but you don't actually have access to this article. And then it's very confusing because I thought I signed in for access and all that kind of stuff. So this way, we're at the article level, we're letting you know what is available. We're also doing this at non-publisher pages, things like ResearchGate, because a lot of our users wind up at those types of sites. They have very good search engine optimization. They often appear higher in the results than the publishers themselves. So rather than having all this advertising and this download full text, which isn't really download full text, but get you to a page that tells you to upload the, contact the author and have them pirate the article onto our website and all this kind of nonsense, we direct them directly to the content. Most importantly, of course, and impactfully for the group on the call today is PubMed. There's several major enhancements here. One is that PubMed, of course, is onto a new interface, new challenges, of course, with that new interface as I've been seeing. But one of the things that they took away when moving to the new interface that I know a lot of med libraries really liked was using the ampersand holdings type of mechanism. What that did was, rather than the outside tool, which appears on every single link, and you have to click to find out do you even have access, using the ampersand holdings, the library was able to upload their holdings, and then PubMed would dynamically only put those links on articles that the researcher actually has. But that's no longer available. So one of the things that Nomad does is it actually brings this back, which is really cool. So when you do a search result, you can see the ability there with the articles, download PDF, article, and on and on. And if you don't have access to something, we say access options, which is going to go to your link resolver so that it can be, it could probably go into ILL fulfillment and so on. You can see there's the cover images as well as the view complete issue. So again, going into browsing and being able to do that. This appears at the search result level, so within the articles itself, which also I should point out is the first time ever where you can go right from a search result or search list in PubMed directly to the content. Always before, you'd have to go into the article level view and then into outside tool and so on and so on and so on. So we're connecting users much more quickly to the content that they're looking for. And keep in mind, this is also baked into Unpaywall. So all that COVID material that is now open access and available, yes, we have the knowledge of that baked into Nomad. So you're able to see materials that are not even in your subscription, but are temporarily open access and available. This also appears at the article level as well. So if you are coming right into PubMed from a PMID, you're able to see that right away. We've been hearing a lot of great, write-ins and case examples of this, stories of large hospital systems planning to do group deployments and everything. This actually is kind of fun. Just this week, my co-founder and our CEO, his niece actually just started a PA program at George Washington University. And she actually took the screenshot with her phone while going through orientation because it jumped out at her that of course her uncle works on the LibKey system, and that they were recommending the best way to do PubMed full text is download LibKey Nomad. And this is in contrast to, oh, come to our library website and then click on the right PubMed link, because if you don't have that O tool on it, then it falls off and you don't get the links right. None of that is needed here if you have the extension installed. You can go directly to PubMed because you've already affiliated within the PubMed, within the Nomad system. And you just say, yes, I'm at George Washington University, and then all of these links and enhancements just show up instantly. Easily the best way to navigate PubMed to get full text content. We also have an announcement about 2 or 3 weeks ago where we've added inline support for Web of Science and Scopus. After PubMed, these are definitely 2 of the biggest ANI or abstracting indexing databases out there. We did the integration very similar to what you see in PubMed. So you've got cover art, you've got the download availability links, and the view complete issue. This is because both these services often have these links that say like view at publisher or full text to publisher, which is not terribly reliable. Some of them go right to the DOI with no authentication. Others are going to sources that you don't actually have access to it from because they don't have advanced knowledge of entitlements the way that LibKey does. So a really powerful addition for those users using Scopus and Web of Science. We also integrate with Wikipedia at the references stage. So we don't necessarily condone the use of Wikipedia as a general research tool, but we know it's highly used, right? We know our users are running out to that to get maybe a general overview of a new topic they're unfamiliar with and so on. But what this does is that it races through the references, looks for those scholarly citations, and then in line presents a linking capability for that institution. So able to connect the authentication and the entitlements right to the content. This also shows up as you're navigating through the article when you see those footnotes and you hover over those. What they do is they bring the reference up there, including the link from LibKey Nomad, so you can go right to the content. Nomad follows what we call a best available version waterfall, which means that we look at the page looking for those identifiers of DOIs or PMIDs. And then we look at the LibKey knowledge base. We know what your holdings are, of course, and so we're looking both at full OA, gold OA journals, as well as subscribed journals that you have access to, regardless of the place you get them from. If you get them from aggregators, that's fine, directly from publishers. We know how to build all those links to the various services. If we can't fulfill the request, it's not in the holdings and so on, then that falls back to additional access options, which could include the open access versions from publishers using unpaywall data, or the accepted manuscripts from repositories. We do partner with Unpaywall to do that, but we do filter the responses a little bit. We do not include submitted manuscripts, for example, which they do track and they do kind of collate that material. But since that has not passed peer review, has not gone through any editorial process at all, we decided not to include that so as to confuse users to thinking that this is the real article when it's really not. There's several more versions that have to happen first. Finally, if nothing else works out, we then present this link we call access options, which then goes back to your link resolver for document delivery. If you don't have a document delivery tool, we can also generate an email and send that to somebody on staff with all the metadata about the article. So there's some options and variations there to try to create a complete fulfillment solution for users. So that's the update on LibKey Nomad. LibKey.io is the service coming out with LibKey Link. So you can see that the formatting and kind of graphical styling is very similar to Link, which is very intentional because they connect to each other. But the idea with LibKey.io is we have a whole generation now of clinicians and researchers who've grown accustomed to the Sci-Hub type methodology of the world of, oh, I see a DOI, I know where to get that. And they race off to Sci-Hub and try and get that content. Well, now the libraries have an alternative for that, which is LibKey.io. So this does an instant lookup by DOI or PMID right from this very simple to use interface. The first time a user comes to here, they affiliate themselves. I set up Twin Cities University, for example. You can automatically have a waitlist link as well. So you don't have to have people self-select, but once they do, the browser just remembers that indefinitely. After they put in that DOI or PMID, they get right to the format chooser, just like they did in LibKey Link 2.0. So this will be a very familiar workflow as we're kind of introducing this format chooser concept to our users. You can also optionally add a little search box on your own library website that just says PMID lookup. And when a user puts in that PMID number, they would instantly go to the format chooser. So a really direct way to do this and get right to that content as fast as possible. And of course, all the different options that are in the format chooser are part of LibKey.io as well. So this is all kind of working together very, very seamlessly. The one other element that comes along with LibKey.io, which is very exciting, is that there's also a linking syntax component as well. Many of us have used a doi.org type linking syntax before, and that of course resolves that article to the publisher of record, which is okay if you're on campus, which most of us aren't right now, and you have access to that article from the journal who published it, not from Ovid or from ProQuest or EBSCO and JSTOR and all these other things. And because there's that fragility there, the consistency of actually fulfilling that to a user clicking on one of these links is very low. And of course, that consistency varies by institution, right? You have University of Michigan and University of Sydney who actually have access to the same article, but they get it through different mechanisms. They have different authentication layers, different proxy servers in this case, and different sources. One gets it from Wiley, one gets it from EBSCO. So the LibKey.io concept though changes that. And with LibKey.io, if you use that as your kind of prefix rather than doi.org, and then have the DOI after it, or the PMID after it, it works with both, then it will instantly route the user based on the institution that they're at. Again, we remember what institution you're at. So if you put this link in and you've used the service before from Michigan, we will interpret this as Michigan. You don't even have to set that. So it provides a really nice, simple way to get access to that material. And the service is available to nearly 1,000 libraries around the world, more than 11 million users. So there's a large swath of researchers who have instant access to this fulfillment technology. However, if you're not working with us just yet, and you come to LibKey.io, there is an unaffiliated option. So if you say, no, I'm not part of LibKey right now, then we will check on paywall for you, see if there's some open access alternatives available and present those options immediately. Or worst case scenario, we will be showing you a link to the publisher site if you gave us a DOI. If you give us a PMID, we will link you back to PubMed so that you can see that article, of course, in PubMed in its normal context. So lots of options if you're not affiliated as well. Like we like to say, the worst case scenario is the current scenario. But if we have LibKey installed in these different places, we can greatly improve the user experience and get people the content much more quickly and much easier. So that's the end of my kind of prepared remarks here and the slides I want to share with you and introduce you to what we've been working on. We did have a number of questions that kind of streamed in here though, so I'm going to look through that and answer some questions. If you've got some questions brewing now's the time to please put those in the chat box so I can make sure to answer them for you. Otherwise, have a wonderful day. Thank you very much for attending, but I'll stick around and answer these questions. Scrolling back up a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry, Rita, you couldn't hear anything. Hopefully you sorted that out. If you didn't, and you can still hear me now, there will be a recording of this entire presentation. So I'll be emailing that to you and hopefully you can hear it then. So Marilyn asks, we have access through the VA. Yes, you do. All VAs have access to this. Many are working remotely and have open Athens. Yes. The LNO sets up our PubMed. How can we get one click to work the best? That's actually in process, if not fully done right now. So our team is working with the LibLinks, the ComeAccess team, to get you all converted to have this available inside your system. If it's not there today, certainly drop me a line, john@thirdiron.com, and I can check for your exact VA location where that is in transition. But that should be getting set up at your institution. Good question. Anna asks, will LibKey Link 2.0 work in Ovid Medline? Yes. So Ovid offers the option to have a link resolver in your system there, and you can essentially just use LibKey's LibKey link in that process. So yes, absolutely. Joanne asks, does this work in the new PubMed? And Manja answers the question for me. So terrific. Yes, it works fine in the new PubMed. Great. Deborah asks, do you have stats on what users choose in LibKey Link's format chooser? How often do they choose something other than PDF? I don't have any right now because this isn't out yet. So this is coming out in June. So right now, LibKey Link 1.0 is PDF only, so that you don't get that format chooser option. We developed that option because of just library feedback. We had a number of different institutions say, hey, we really like this in general, but we've got some users who are bummed out that they can't choose article link instead. And so we decided to kind of do this happy medium. I should note that LibKey Link 1 will still be available. So if you really like only doing PDFs and that's what you want to do, and you don't want to provide these additional options and features, that will still be an option. So know that we're not forcing a move to LibKey 2, but we just know that by having that capability, that it continues to expand the capability for users. Great question. Let's see. Joanne asks, does it work in all browsers? Yes. So yeah, the LibKey Link is browser independent. There's no reference there. Christy asks, what's the estimated time for use with other browsers, Edge, Firefox, etc.? Edge, technically, it'll work right now. We're just qualifying support for it, meaning that we've kind of smoke tested, done it really quick, seems to work fine. But we're making sure that on our end, if there are some minor differences, we're kind of making sure that those aren't going to be problematic or anything like that. So that's the only reason why I say it's not fully supported right now. But if you try it, it should work. Firefox is under active development, so that one definitely isn't available anywhere. I estimate that will take a few months to complete, but it is under active development right now. So that will be coming soon. Someone asks about getting PowerPoint for this. I will distribute the video. Certainly, if you would like slides as well, let us know. We can probably just post those too. So I could send that to everybody, make it easy. Paul asks, is there a way to sign up to be notified when it becomes available on other browsers? Absolutely. At the thirdiron.com homepage, at the very bottom of our page, there's a sign up for our newsletter. All kinds of announcements of like new services, new browsers supported by Nomad will always come through that channel. So please definitely go to the bottom of that page and put in your email address to sign up at thirdiron.com. Thank you for that. Rita asks, could you share a practical link so we can have a feel of it? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Rita. I'm sorry. Maybe you mean LibKey link, and maybe you can clarify a little bit. I mean, in terms of a practical link, I can certainly direct you to libraries who use it already. If you want to contact me at john@thirdiron.com, we can help you with that. And Travis, yes, I guess we'll post the PowerPoint, so don't worry. Let's see. Travis says, I may pass this along to my supervisor in case she needs information for our renewal. I'm impressed with LibKey though. Well, great. Thanks very much, Travis. Paul, if we already subscribe to browsing, do we have access to LibKey, or is LibKey a separate product? Paul, very, very likely you have access to this already. I'll certainly check for you there. If you can send me a note at john@thirdiron.com just to let me know your affiliation and everything. About 97% or so of our libraries have everything, so it's very likely that you do. Thanks for the question. And Jen asks, would you please be able to go over how to implement LibKey Nomad for the institution without the browser extension at the individual level, please? I missed some of what you said. Sure, yeah, so I didn't actually get into great detail on this, so I don't think you missed much. Essentially, we have kind of instructions on our support pages about doing a site-wide install. So this is an IT-driven thing. We provided some instructions built by other university IT groups and so forth who've done this. Because this is a native thing to your institution, all IT networks are different. The instructions we provide are done by are done via Microsoft Group Policy, which is a very, very popular mechanism of pushing software to manage computers. Your network may be a little different and so on. So we can't provide too prescriptive instructions, but certainly I would check out those instructions at support.thirdiron.com. If you have any questions, please do email me, John, John, @thirdiron.com, and I can direct you to the exact links to help your team out. Great question, thank you. Okay, hello from Pakistan. Thanks very much. I appreciate you dropping by to see this. Christy asks, are there user stats available? We don't have user stats because we're a privacy preserving company, so we don't track people on an individual level. There's no user accounts to create with the LibKey services and so on. We do provide aggregate statistics though about use via your institution. So we're able to tell you things like, here's the number of downloads per journal in this time period. Or as well as if they're interacting with the browsing services, things like the number of articles viewed, the table of contents viewed, journals viewed, the table of contents viewed in the browsing universe. But we're not looking at, oh, there's 18 users with this email address. And that's not something we track or provide. Thanks for that. Deborah says, can you talk about why LibKey Nomad used in PubMed and not LibKey Link? Both of them are actually available for PubMed. So I don't mean to say that one versus the other. Certainly, many of our libraries do both. The difference is that with, and I'll give you a little graphical illustration here. With Nomad, we're actually able to superimpose these real-time availabilities into the interface itself. So we're able to say, download PDF for this one. We know that exists. We already checked. It's good to go. You've got the view complete issue. That's great. Off you go to see that, cover images, all that stuff. That is only available through the LibKey Nomad service. So you have to be running the extension to do that. And that's because PubMed doesn't have an ability for us to add code to their page, which is what would be needed for this to just be automatically happening for your users who come in through the O tool. Just as a side note, we have asked the National Library of Medicine several times to do this, and because we're not charging them, it would be free for them to do this, to provide this as a service for PubMed users, and they have said no, we don't want to do this. So this is the next best thing. Is we've done this with an extension because that way we can just rewrite the page for the individual user based on having this extension installed. The outside tool and LibKey Link, that is something, of course, that the library manages, and by the library managing it, then it is just a linking methodology. So that's where you won't see any of this sort of graphical enhancement. But when you go to the outside tool, and just to back up here a little bit, to here, and they click on the outside tool, we can make that direct to the format chooser rather than these multi-stage sort of things you're used to seeing. The upside to that is that people coming in through your library website and using that outside tool will have instant access to that functionality regardless of browser. They don't need to install an extension. They don't need to be using just Chrome. They can use any browser they want, and they have this capability. But we're not able to signpost, meaning post inside of PubMed itself to say, oh, you can download the PDF right here with LibKey Link. So Link was developed because we knew that some services can't support that sort of more advanced technology. So my recommendation is definitely, if you're a med library, to do both, to set up LibKey Link, because you're going to have some users coming in through your website, and they're going to ignore any advertising you do, any promotion you do, any messaging you do about, hey, you can install LibKey Nomad, you can have this great functionality. They won't see it for various reasons, right, that we all know. It's always difficult to market to our users. And so they won't see that, but this way, at least, they're going to save a lot of clicks and have a better experience with LibKey Link. Whereas you're going to have those other users who are using Nomad, and they're going to also have a terrific experience. I would argue an even better experience because they're using Nomad as well. So there's no conflict between the two. They're kind of overlapping in a way, but that way it covers both kind of use cases for users. Really good question. Ola asks, is there a trial version that libraries can have before getting the real thing? Absolutely. Yeah, so we do trials all the time. Trials look just like the real thing, so there's really no difference. We just turn this on for you. It usually takes us just a day or two to, or I should say 2 or 3 days to probably set this up for you. We need your library holdings data. There's a little bit of a form to fill out on our website, and then we can get this up and rolling usually pretty quickly. So you can see exactly what this can do for you and your users. So certainly, please use the Contact Us button on the top of the thirdiron.com website if you're interested in getting a trial going and learning more about it. Thank you. Brooke says, I work for a small org, and most of our journal subscriptions logins are set up just for me, not for the full institution. It sounds like this is more intended for a larger library with many users without librarian expertise. I pull hundreds of articles a day, but it is just me. Yeah, this would be difficult for you to use, honestly. This is set up for more of an institutional type of arrangement where there is access through some sort of mechanism of authentication that your users can access and not just you. So if you are just doing username and password, I'm sorry, but yeah, the LibKey services are not going to help you out very much. Julia says, okay, she wants me to email her certain other questions here and so on. Okay, no problem, Julia. I'll be in touch by email. And Ola asks, is it one package for LibKey Discovery, Link, Nomad, and LibKey.io? Yes, it is. So when we think about the different options for subscribing, it very simply works like this. Most libraries get Third Iron Complete, which is all the LibKey services and browsing. You can optionally get one or the other. So you can get just the LibKey suite or just browsing as well. So there's 3 options: Third Iron Complete, LibKey suite, or browsing. Thanks for that question. Paul says, thanks for your commitment to user privacy. Absolutely. And let's see other questions I'm floating through here. Ariane says, did they say no we won't or no we can't, NLM? They said no we won't. So this is a super easy technical thing to do. So I don't believe for a second that they can't. It's just, you know, they won't. So so no, because of course that you know, the integration we're asking of them is the same thing that Ex Libris and OCLC and TDNet and everybody else did. So we know, of course, this is very easy to do. Mary Holt says, is LibKey Nomad included with browsing installation of the institution? I assume it requires IT to set up. Nomad doesn't require any IT involvement for an individual user. It's only if you want to also push this out to machines managed by your IT group. So if you're an individual user, as long as you have permission to install Chrome extensions, you shouldn't need IT involvement. Sometimes IT groups do need to give permission for that to happen. There's some kind of administrator sort of things for individuals to be able to do that. But otherwise, it should be very minimal IT involvement, if any. Joanne says, we love Third Iron products. They're awesome. Thank you, Joanne. I appreciate that. And let's see. Excuse me, what's the third option in addition to browsing and LibKey Suite? The third option is Third Iron Complete, which means you get everything together. So that's that's everything we make. Deborah says, we're creating orientation materials for new residents now. Would love to know when Nomad will be available for other browsers. Our resident orientation begins on June 15. You're really sweating me here, Deborah. We're not going to have Firefox by June 15, though. I can assure you. But certainly, as we get more clarity and definition, we'll be announcing that. I don't expect it to be available in June. So I would definitely say, you know, Chrome for sure. We'll see how fast we can announce for Edge, though. That has a possibility. I don't want to make that claim now because I'm not the person, you know, certifying all that stuff. But I know for sure we won't have Firefox in 2 weeks. So minimum Chrome, maybe Edge. So thank you very much for that question. Whew, okay, I think we got through the questions. Last call for any questions that people have here. Going once, going twice. All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining. Really appreciate it. Again, you'll get a copy of slides and video probably later today. Please share with your colleagues. If you have any questions, do contact me, john@thirdiron.com, or use the Contact Us button at the top of the website. Again, to keep up to date with more announcements, more webinars, what's going on with us here at Third Iron, do sign up for that newsletter at the bottom of our homepage. Thanks again. Have a wonderful day, folks.